with a full beard, and there's some commandment about the hair. The haircut cannot be like have a sharp angle or something. And so, once upon a time, a Jewish scholar in Central Europe interpreted this to mean you'll have to leave this part of the hair and the head
Mm.
uncut. And so I watched a documentary about this community. So the boys, they they don't get a haircut when they're baby, and they grow up to like age 5 or something, and they have long hair on their whole head, and then they get a ceremonial haircut from one of the leaders of the community
Mm.
that only leaves here and here, and it grows out like forever, I guess. And you see them walking around, you're like, wow, that's a very unique haircut. And if you don't know that, that's a Jewish thing, you might just think, wow, that's a very strange choice. Go to the barber and just leave this part and let just these two patches here grow out. But it has to do with one of the more than 300 commandments, and they're trying to obey. They're trying to obey all of the commandments. And another commandment, it was about this Orthodox Jewish community in Australia. Another commandment has to do with during a certain time of the year, you're supposed to live like in a hut, not in your normal house, like kind of like camping in a tent. But they didn't have tents way back. They built out of like tree leaves, like a palm tree, and like most Jews would be like, "Oh, that's nice," but they're not taking it literally and seriously. This commandment and the haircut one too. Nine, I can hear me. This one thing. So I showed this guy. They like documented his daily life for a few days. He was like a normal Jew, you could say,
Mm-hmm.
like born to Jewish parents, but not practicing Judaism like in a real committed way. Like he was living as a normal like Australian, like sort of participating in Christmas and everything. And then when he became a teenager, then he learned about the Jewish Orthodox community, and he felt like a spiritual calling, a spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to be like this. I want to be a rabbi. I want to study Judaism and live, live Judaism like all the time, all day long. So they say, we're like, if you're trying to obey more than 300 commandments, it takes up all of your time. Like, you have to think about it all the time. And then this one other rabbi, he was explaining, there's, I forget the numbers, but he's like, there's 64 things that are, and then he said some Hebrew or Yiddish word, and he said that means the things that you must do.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 100 and something other things that you must not do. And like he broke it down. I forget what the third category was, but um, yeah, the women. Oh, so he literally built this thing out of there for a week.
So he built that um, tent of him.
And he didn't leave. Like literally, didn't he ate his meals? He slept. He used the bathroom in this little thing that he built.
Okay.
And yeah, so else? Oh yeah, and then
Oh, does the Jewish mention why do they need to leave a little hair on their?
yeah, it's one of the commandments about that you should not cut the hair. I forget exactly, like you should not have an angled haircut, like how the barbers here do. They take the razor at the end of the haircut, and they like to make it like have a sharp angle here on the men's haircut. Like you shouldn't do that. So there was some in the 1700s Jewish rabbi scholar in Europe. He's like, I think this commandment means that we should leave this patch of hair and let it grow long. And then everybody started doing that. But the Jews have only been doing that for 300 something years. It wasn't like in the Jesus lifetime that they had this hair tradition.
Okay, so
So Judaism is evolving over time. And if you see the Jews, white Jews, if you have ancestors in Europe, they wear all black, the Orthodox Jews, but that only started 300 something years ago. Like they wear black shoes with white long socks and black hair, and they wear a huge hat it's made from an animal that you can find in Europe. It's a furry animal.
that's one of the command.
Somehow they believe they're following God's law by wearing this big hat.
It's like a witch.
I guess all Jews will agree you should wear I guess the pronunciation is like yarmulke, but I always heard like yarmulke. But a little hat here, like the Pope too wears a little hat. But then, for some reason, some of the Jews who think they're like Orthodox and like the more serious Jews, they have a huge hat. And so you see them walking down the street, especially in New York City. And if you're not from New York City, if you're a tourist there, and you've like never encountered Jews before, or you've never encountered Orthodox Jews, you've never seen them, right? And you just go to New York City and decide to walk around, and you're like, what am I looking at? It's like shocking. You're like, what's going on with these people? Because they have this funny haircut and this huge hat made out of fur.
Okay.
It's like just balanced here. Like they can't do this because they will fall off. They have to just walk real carefully, so balance here. And they're like mostly black with some white in their clothes. Yeah, and then I could imagine you grow up your whole life in America, you could reach age 20, 21 and never, like you've heard of Jews, but you've never seen them because there's not that many. Then you just take a trip to New York City as a tourist, and then you see these people and you're like, whoa, what is that? It looks like so strange.
So that is the old commandment, is it? From the Jews.
I guess in
from
the Old Testament,
Okay.
in the Torah or Talmud, which is their word for the Old Testament,
Yeah, the Torah.
then I heard a Jew say more than once that there's so many commandments in there.
All right.
Yeah. So that's why they're looking like that, and they live their lives in a strict way. And even though it's how many thousand years, 3,000 years since the law was written down, still trying to follow it, still trying to follow these strict laws. And then I watched a YouTube video of a normal American Jew who just lives his life, and you look at him and he looks like any other white American. He doesn't wear the little hat, and he doesn't do anything special for Judaism. Doesn't go to the synagogue or study the law or anything. But he counts himself as a Jew. And he was like interviewing an Orthodox Jew in an Orthodox Jewish store in New York. And he's like, why do you follow all these rules? Isn't it hard? Don't you get tired of following all the rules? And the Orthodox Jew said something that I heard Muslims say about all the rules in Islam. You do it for God. You do it because that's what God commanded, and you don't think of it as hard. Like in Islam, it's not hard to pray 5 times a day, or it's not hard to fast during Ramadan, because that's what God commanded, and you have the mindset that you're doing it for God, so you actually feel happy to be God's servant or God's slave. Yeah, the way the Jew was talking, the Orthodox Jew with the big beard and the black clothes, he was like, he had the same kind of facial expression and the same logic as Muslims that I talked to in the past. They're like, yeah, it's all for God, and the Muslim would say, it's all for Allah. So I don't feel that it's hard.
Okay.
Yeah, but when I was a Muslim and I was trying to follow all of the rules, it's hard. I found it hard.
But what are the rules about the fasting? Did you
In
fast?
Islam,
Yeah.
there's one month of the year, Ramadan. It's a lunar month, so it's 28 or 29 days. Because the month is not exactly... In Judaism, they have the months based on the moon also, not the sun. The June, July, August are months is on the sun, but their months are by the moon. So they're not exactly, they could be 28, they could be 29 days long. So there's a month of Ramadan where you fast, meaning no water and no food, no nothing going in to your mouth, only just breathing from just before the sunrise until after the sun sets. So during the time where the sun is in the sky. And it makes sense if you're in the middle parts of the earth, but then if you go to the very far north, the Muslims, when Muslims eventually made it to like northern Norway and other places in the very far north, and in the summer of Ramadan, because it's lunar month, so sometimes Ramadan is in the summer and sometimes it's in the winter. It's like every year Ramadan moves 4 days earlier in our calendar.
Oh.
So like 1 year it starts in September 1st, and then the next year it would start like August 27th.
Oh.
So it's sometimes some years it's in the summer, and then way up north the sun never sets. For the whole summer you can see the sun 24 hours a day
Really?
in the sky. Yeah. So then how do you fast for Ramadan? You just don't eat for the whole month because the sun never set? Obviously not.
Okay.
And then the opposite, in the winter, you never see the sun. If you're in the high north.
Like in
It's
Canada.
dark all the time. If you're in Canada, you have to go way high up north Canada. not like Toronto, not near the U.S. In the very high north, some people live up there. They have like 4 months, 5 months. Where there's no sun, dark like this, 24 hours a day.
Really?
Yeah, so it's strange. During the summer, you're like, what time is it? I don't know, because the sun never sets. You like go to sleep when it's sunny, and you wake up, it's still sunny. Or in the winter time, like you wake up, it's dark. Time to go to bed, it's dark. It's always dark. You just have the electricity or the stars and the moon.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Earth is tilted. You know, the Earth is a sphere, and it's not like this. It's not rotating perfectly straight up and down. It has a tilt,
Oh.
so it's rotating, and so that's why the sun can't reach, or the sun never leaves in the certain far north.
Yeah, because it's circle and then there's a higher end. Okay. And people living there. Live there.